Most gardeners waste years waiting on fruit trees that never deliver what they imagined. They plant a mango, an apple, or an avocado, thinking abundance is just a matter of time, and then reality hits. 5 years later, the tree is still juvenile. Yields are inconsistent, pests are constant, and harvests come once a year if you're lucky. Meanwhile, a small overlooked bush sitting quietly in the corner of the garden can outproduce that tree 3 times over in the same space, in the same season, with less water, less pruning, and far more control. The plant I'm talking about is the humble berry bush, specifically high-yielding varieties like raspberries, blackberries, and ever-bearing strawberries. And before you brush that off as beginner-level gardening, understand this. When managed correctly, these bushes operate more like production systems than plants. They don't just grow food, they compound it. They give you multiple harvest cycles, they respond aggressively to pruning, and they convert small spaces into continuous output zones in a way fruit trees simply can't match. Now here's where most people still get it wrong. They plant berry bushes in the ground, treat them like mini trees, and then wonder why yields are mediocre. The real breakthrough comes when you stop thinking in terms of plants and start thinking in terms of containers and control. This is exactly why I rely heavily on heavy-duty fabric grow bags. I'll link it in the description below. These aren't just containers, they fundamentally change how the root system behaves. Instead of roots circling and choking themselves like in plastic pots, they air prune, branch out, and create dense fibrous networks that absorb nutrients efficiently. That translates directly into faster growth and higher yields. And before we go deeper, I want to say something that matters beyond the garden. If you're getting value from this kind of content, consider supporting a dog rescue organization near you. These groups depend entirely on donations to rescue, feed, and treat abandoned and injured dogs. I've seen firsthand how even a small contribution can mean the difference between suffering and recovery for an animal. If this video helps you grow better, maybe it can also help you give back in some small way. It genuinely matters. Back to the bushes, because this is where things get interesting. A single well-managed raspberry bush can produce anywhere from 1.5 to 3 kilograms of fruit per season. That alone is respectable, but when you grow them in controlled containers like fabric bags, space them properly at around 40 to 50 centimeters apart, and prune aggressively to encourage lateral canes, you can stack production vertically and horizontally. Now you're not growing one bush, you're growing a system of canes that replace themselves continuously. Compare that to a fruit tree. A mature apple tree might give you 20 to 50 kilograms once per year under ideal conditions. Sounds impressive until you factor in space. That tree occupies several square meters, requires structural pruning, and produces seasonally. In the same footprint, you could run 8 to 10 berry plants, each producing multiple harvests across the year, especially if you're working with ever-bearing varieties. Suddenly, your output isn't just higher, it's more consistent. Water use is another place where people get misled. Fruit trees develop deep roots, which sounds efficient, but in dry conditions or controlled gardens, that actually becomes a disadvantage. You can't easily target water delivery. With berry bushes in grow bags, you can dial in irrigation precisely. In my setups, each 10-gallon fabric bag gets about 1 to 1.5 liters of water per day during peak fruiting, adjusted based on temperature. That level of control prevents stress, keeps sugar levels high in the fruit, and eliminates waste. Soil composition matters more than people think, and this is another area where berry systems outperform trees. Instead of relying on native soil, which is often compacted, low in organic matter, or poorly draining, you can engineer the perfect medium. A mix I've used consistently is 40% cocoa coir, 30% compost, 20% perlite, and 10% worm castings. That combination holds moisture while staying aerated, and in a fabric grow bag, it becomes an incredibly active root zone. Now let's talk about pruning, because this is where yield is either created or destroyed. Most gardeners are too conservative. They hesitate to cut back growth, thinking more leaves mean more fruit. In reality, unpruned berry bushes waste energy on old, unproductive canes. For raspberries and blackberries, you want to remove spent canes immediately after fruiting and thin out overcrowded growth. The goal is to keep airflow high and direct energy into new, productive canes. When done correctly, this resets the plant's productivity cycle and can double your output. Hydroponics takes this even further. If you've never grown berries hydroponically, you're missing one of the most efficient systems available. Using a simple drip system with nutrient solution, you can push growth rates beyond what soil allows. Electrical conductivity around 1.5 to 2.0 and a pH between 5.5 and 6.5 keeps nutrient uptake optimal. In this setup, berries don't just grow, they accelerate. Fruiting can happen earlier, and yields per plant increase because the plant never experiences nutrient limitations. But here's the trade-off, and I want to be clear about it. Hydroponics requires consistency. If your system fails, roots dry out quickly. Soil or grow bag systems are more forgiving. That's why, for most people, a hybrid approach works best. Use fabric grow bags with optimized soil for reliability, and then experiment with hydroponics once you understand the plant's behavior. Another reason nurseries don't push these bushes as hard as fruit trees is simple economics. Trees are expensive, they take longer to mature, and they create repeat customers who come back for replacements or additional varieties. Berry bushes, on the other hand, propagate easily. A single healthy plant can produce runners or cuttings that give you multiple new plants. Once you understand this, you stop buying plants and start multiplying them. So let me give you a practical backyard scenario. Imagine you have a 3 by 3 meter space. Rather than planting just one fruit tree in the center, you line that area with 12 fabric grow bags, each one holding a berry plant. You set up a simple drip irrigation line, feed with a balanced liquid fertilizer every 7 to 10 days, and prune regularly. Within just one growing season, you're harvesting continuously, not once, not twice, but week after week. And, well, the quality difference is real. Berries grown under controlled conditions actually develop better flavor because stress is minimized and nutrients are consistent. You're not dealing with unpredictable soil deficiencies or, irregular watering. Every variable is under your control. Even pest management becomes easier. Berry bushes in containers are just easier to inspect, isolate, and treat. If one plant gets infected, you can move it, prune it, or treat it without affecting the entire system. Try doing that with a full-sized tree rooted in the ground. The fabric grow bags really come back into play here again because they make mobility possible. If sunlight shifts, you just move the plant. If rain becomes excessive, you simply reposition it. That flexibility is something traditional in-ground gardening just doesn't offer. Season extension is another advantage people often underestimate. With smaller plants, you can protect them easily. A simple shade net during extreme heat, or a plastic cover during heavy rain, can stabilize conditions and keep production going longer. Trees just don't give you that option. Now, are fruit trees useless? Not at all. They definitely serve a purpose, especially for long-term planning and diversity. But if your goal is maximum food output per square meter, per liter of water, and per hour of effort, berry bushes win. It's not even close. The biggest mindset shift is this: stop chasing size, start chasing efficiency. A large tree looks impressive, but a dense system of productive bushes actually feeds you consistently. Once you experience that difference, honestly, it's hard to go back. And once you dial in your system, your spacing, your pruning rhythm, your watering, you'll start to see something most gardeners never reach: predictability. You'll know when your plants will fruit, how much they'll produce, and what adjustments to make. That's when gardening stops being guesswork and starts becoming a reliable food system. If this kind of practical, results-driven approach makes sense to you, subscribe and share this with someone who's still waiting 5 years for a tree to finally produce. Because better food doesn't come from bigger plants, it comes from smarter systems. And once you build that system, even something as simple as a berry bush in a fabric grow bag stops being small and starts becoming one of the most productive tools in your entire garden.